vibes are killer. The vibe cool is serving. The vibes are killer. The vibe cool is serving. The vibes are killer. The vibe cool is serving.
Right, welcome back to another edition of Get Your Balls Out, featuring Hot Duck and the Gherkin Magic. Another exciting week, a lot to talk about. What a weekend. We're going to kick off tonight with the running. And Wes, I think we've got to start. We have to start with obviously your team, Chelsea, and mate, 36 minutes. Go on, get into it.
Well, that's why I'm all in black.
Morning.
It's a massive game. I mean, we don't actually have a very good record at Newcastle. Even when we were top of our game, it was always a very, very hard place to go. Obviously, it's a long trip, but that shouldn't make any difference. And, conceding 2 minutes in, they were completely, it's the worst start possible. They were completely far more up for it than we were.
Mm-hmm.
We have had a couple of good results recently. I just think it shows a lack of maturity in the team, and just showed in Jackson sending off. I mean, you can let it slide when he's gone in for a tackle and he's caught him a little bit and he's trying to win the ball, but he literally looks at him and elbows him in the face. Now, what is the thought process going through his head? He's our main striker. As soon as he came back from injury, we improved a bit because attention was on Palmer, so he was a bit freer and could play better. And obviously we saw against Liverpool how still destructive he can be. And now he's basically might as well be on holiday for the rest of the season until we go to the World Club Cup. But what is that process going through your head? I mean, he's aggressive anyway. He's always getting. Yeah. I don't mind about aggression, stuff like that. No. That's just, he's done it on purpose. How does he think he's going to get away with that? How does anyone think they're going to get away with something like that? It just beggars belief. We held on, we tried, and then, crappy offside defending or attempted defending didn't work again. And to be honest, we've conceded goals like that all season. Newcastle the better team. As I said last time, we don't deserve it. So if we don't get it, we haven't deserved it. I think it's going to come down, and actually it was ironic. I was at a bar yesterday talking to a couple of Forest fans, and I think they both agree that it's basically going to be a playoff last day of the season. Who gets it? Yeah, I think we'll beat United on Friday, even without Jackson. They're just in terrible form, and again, they're going to be resting everyone. They can't get any higher in the league, so they'll go all out for. We'll talk about Man United in a minute, but I was just really, really disappointed, and it just shows you that our recruitment policy about having all these young kids and stuff. You've got to have a balance. That would never have happened with the 08 Chelsea or the 04-05 Chelsea or the the teams that have won great. Even with the Tuchel Chelseas, you had a blend. That's where you need to keep your head. That's where you need to keep it tight. Let the game play out. I didn't think Newcastle threatened as much as everyone thought they would, but it just shows you that. Just wound me up completely, Jackson getting sent off, because it just ruins the rest of the season. Really, does, everyone. Lavia, apologised, which I thought was quite good of him, being one of the better players, and said, he did make a mistake, and he said it's on me, and he can't wait for Friday to make it better. But Jackson just wound me up. We like him because he tries, but that he did not go down well in my and other Chelsea fans' books.
No, like you say, 36th minute. All right, you're 1-0 down. I mean, people are saying, he's frustrated. What are you frustrated about? I'm sorry. Your season's got a bit awry, and you're still with the shout of getting Champions League. So it wasn't like you were 5-0 down at half time or something, wasn't it? It was one goal, and it's clearly something just kind of went in his mind, and when you saw that VAR replay, you're like, oh, goodness me, mate. That is just horrific. I mean, it's not even trying to hide it as well. It's literally just a kind of, let's just run at someone with sort of jousting kind of thing. And it's come on, mate. Honestly.
It's not even 50-50, is it? It's not like he accidentally caught him with his hand,
He's looking at him, isn't he? Where's he going to plant it? He literally done that. And it's And the thing is, we always talk about it, each player has a duty of care to the other, because whilst football is not the most physical game to have a tackle in, you do the wrong tackle, you can break someone's leg or worse, right? I mean, we've seen it happen. So they do have to consider these things, because it's just not it's not. I don't think it's acceptable to kind of go with that. And I think Chelsea potentially going to pay the price for that now, ultimately, right? And like you said, whether you deserve it or not, that's down to kind of everyone's obviously a personal opinion, but you still had a chance at it, and it's kind of been blown because of that. Because as you said, Jackson wasn't playing. That's kind of when you all fell off the radar a little bit in terms of goals. It dried up a bit, didn't it? Really, and like you said, they didn't play as well. Everyone just couldn't really play. So to lose him again now, it's kind of well, at a critical time. It's a bit like when obviously Wolves lost Cunha when he lost his head right and got mental. And fortunately Wolves kind of kept their head above water and did all right, but that could have been a really bad kind of time for them. But this is probably a worse one in the sense of the Champions League and what happened last time Jackson was injured. So yeah, disappointing all round. From a player as well, it's just disappointing. And the manager needs to have more, I think, control over the players really. And there's something's wrong there, I think, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I'd be like, well, if you get sent off for something like that, you don't get paid while you're not playing.
Yeah, categorically.
That's 3 weeks' wages gone.
Yeah.
You gonna do it again? You can do it again. If you're on
whatever he's paying for,
you're on £100 a week, though. If I say, well, I'm going to take 3 weeks of your wages, that red card's going to cost you 300. Wouldn't even come into your head. Wouldn't even come into your head. Generally in Premier League, the club plays the fine. They might have some internal fines for yellow and red cards, but it's not going to be anywhere near as harsh. We've seen lists of fines and stuff. I would be tearing him a new one in front of everyone. Yeah. You've let everyone down. Tear a strip off him. I don't know if you're even allowed to do that. Probably cry.
Probably not. So they'll have a tribunal or something.
And it's not that he didn't lose us the game, but
no. At
the same time, he's going to affect all the other players, the staff, the supporters for the rest of the season. Yeah, he's done something stupid, and I really hope he gets massively. As I said, I'd 3 weeks' wages. They're not going to do it then. Whatever you're on, if I was on 10 grand a week, I wouldn't do that. 30 grand for big. Yeah. Just use your brain, calm down, and don't do stupid things like that. Anyway, we need to move on because it's just gonna blood boil.
No, I agree with it. No, I mean, like you said, when we talk about the running though, overall for the top teams, what a weird week. Only Aston Villa got the win, right?
Yeah.
So we start off, Man City. Oh, don't get on, they had chance. I mean, they were like at the end, towards the end of the game, just striking the ball in the box every 5 seconds. It was hitting the players in the post. So I think they were unlucky not to score, but it was interesting, right? Like, literally, Southampton were like, fair play, they're up for it. They're like, we're not going to lose this. And they defended their socks off. To have that motivation in the relegated, fair play. That shows something about, your kind of desire to play for the club ultimately, right? Which is.
I mean, from Saturday, I was just like, I was really buzzing. Like, everything's gone our way here. If we won, we'd have been 1 point behind Arsenal.
Yeah.
Or, Liverpool. I didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But I thought, you may give yourself a really good chance of not having to it be a playoff on the last day of the season. I find it laughable. Ruben Diaz's comments after, and even his own manager slated him for that.
Yeah.
What Southampton have no obligation to come out and play and make it easy for you. No. They're Southampton. They're relegated. They're trying to get 1 point to not be the worst team ever in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's up to you. And to be honest, I think he picked the wrong team. Haaland clearly wasn't fit. He's also overrated, as I'm going to say every single time. He's a tapping merchant. As soon as they bring Marmoush on, the game changed. He hit the bar. He does things differently. It just works. The whole system of the match is movement around. Haaland's just waiting there to have a tap or something. Marmoush was so much better. I mean, I captained Marmoush on my fantasy team because I thought he's definitely going to play him. He's probably going to score.
He hit the crossbar in the...
Yeah, as soon as he come on. If he'd have played from the beginning, I think City would have won because you've got that sporadicness about him that isn't so... just looks really easy to mark Haaland. It really does. Unless you're defending on the halfway line and De Bruyne slipped one through. Just have to be physical with him. He clearly gets wound up and he doesn't like it. He also wasn't fit. So, I mean, Pep made an error there, but Southampton, to that tribute, played really, really well. And I think they definitely deserve the point. And just, I think Man City must be catching some delulu from Arsenal because what Ruben Diaz was saying is just an absolute joke.
Oh, this is the thing.
We're going to play easy for you so you can win easily.
Exactly. Yeah. That is ridiculous. It's a football match, isn't it? Like, and the thing is, it's obviously only because there's been injuries to the defence, but Ruben Diaz for a long time hasn't been Pep's first choice, right?
Yeah.
I think part of that is his attitude. He's always been like that, come out saying, "Oh, they're not playing football as well. Like they just want to sit there in half, 11 men in the box." So what?
Yeah.
If that's what it takes to win the game or draw, then so what? Like, don't complain. If you're better, prove it then, right? Do you know what I mean? Don't whinge about it. So, and I was just waiting because obviously when Man City are really pushing their line so high, right? I was just waiting for Southampton to get one in over the top, and then obviously Arsenal rolls onto it. But unfortunately, it didn't happen because it was that little bit too much. But that would have just been the icing on the cake. Like the 91st minute, they had done that, and then like City had lost the game. I mean, that would have been priceless, to be honest. But hey, it didn't happen. But City needs to find a bit of form with the FA Cup. I think you're right. Playing Haaland instead of Marmoush was a mistake on Pep's side, I think. Obviously, Haaland being number one, in essence, would be the first choice striker, but it just didn't work in what they were trying to achieve, I think, at that match. Southampton were kind of ready for that combo, I think. And that was, that's why when Marmoush came on, it opened it up and there was definitely more chances. So,
well, and obviously Palace had a great game on, naturally run onto that. Had a great, again, Tottenham resting the players. They're basically playing for this one final, which I think they'll win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Eze did his thing. I honestly think that I think Palace will do it on Saturday. I think everyone wants them to do it.
Of course they do.
And, they're a bogey team for City. They've beaten them before. They've beaten them repeatedly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good opportunity for them. That's what their season is all up for essentially this one game because they're safe in the league.
It's up perfectly for, hasn't it? They were safe quite a few matches ago. And they're in fine form. They've hit form as well, right? I mean, that, like you say, even Tottenham's obviously, rested players, but they're on form. Eze's in the form of his life, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
Obviously this year, and I think, it'll be a good match. And I think that's one thing though which you get with City, right, is their players, because they're used to scoring and winning, they do find it hard to deal with when they get frustrated. They lose their patience quickly, and that's when it breaks down. I think that will be, if Palace keep them quiet, obviously, because they'll come out fighting, no doubt. Both teams will. I hope it's not like I don't think Oliver Glasner will park the bus, so to speak. I think we're a bit conservative for the first maybe 20, 30 minutes, but I would say to him, go for it. But he might just want to just build into it a bit because it's a big occasion, right? First time they've been to the final. So.
Yeah, I think they've got style Palace, haven't they? Eze and Sarr sort of moving around. It's always really useful having a big target man like Mateta up there. And their midfield three, so I think they know how they're going to play. They haven't got any injuries of any major players. A lot of people might think that actually this would be a sort of audition. Palace play well. I think, Eze has been good for a few years. Now, whether they have a similar situation to what happened to Zaha when he went to a big club, didn't get the minutes, had to leave again, go somewhere else. I think Eze's good enough to play at probably a higher level club. Again, everyone's talking about Wharton, Mateta. There's a lot of players that have done really well at that club. And it's just whether they're ready for that step up. They want to do that. I'm sure if someone come in with a decent bid, Palace would have to consider it. Who left? Elise obviously left last season, so
he's killing it at Bayern, isn't he? Yeah.
They did. So this, I think, Palace will be up for it. It's a good chance. I know a few Palace fans, and they're very vociferous, and they'll love that day out. Be interesting to see what team Pep picks, whether he reverts to Marmoush. Again, I think because of how Palace play, and they've got those three centre-backs, I think they'd much rather be having the physical presence of Haaland there that they can feel, whereas Marmoush is a bit more...
Moves around.
We'll see what happens. Maybe he'll play Marmoush on the wing and play Haaland in the middle. We'll just have to see. But I think they wanted to play Haaland because they really want to get him fit for the World Club Cup.
Exactly, which is fair enough. And obviously they'll need him to be doing his tap-ins if they're going to win that, right? Obviously, there's some teams
against Al Hilal or whoever they're playing.
Indeed, exactly, yeah. But then, to be fair, obviously, Arsenal, thankfully for Arsenal, they brought it back in the second half. But look, naturally they're on a bit of a a downer, and obviously that first half Liverpool. Clinical week came out. But again, I know we don't have to play for it because we've won it already. But my thing with Liverpool is always kill the game off, right? Just kill the game off, because the second half is like a complete reverse switch, right? It's straight away. Then, Martinelli unmarked. I'm not sure how Alisson read that kind of... It wasn't even like a really fast-paced cross. It was sort of floated in. There's a bit of curl on it, but you could see what was going to happen. Martinelli left unmarked, and I was like, guys, come on, just sort it out. I thought as well, like in the second half, obviously Bradley playing, he's got a lot to learn, right? I think he's got talent. He's a bit like Arnold in terms of, his attacking power, I think, from that position. But again, defending probably a little bit lacking. I think obviously there's talk about us going for Frimpong, which, I don't know. I think...
heard about Gertruda. That's another one. From
yeah.
It was funny. He's normally looked solid all season, but he looked a bit...
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the weight fell on him suddenly that, I'm now Liverpool starting right back.
Yeah.
But he made some rash challenges. He jumped in a couple of times. He reminded me very much of how Lewis Skelly plays, a bit immature, a bit young, occasionally makes a rash decision. But yeah, it was a classic football game of two halves. See, one of the few times I ever would cheer Liverpool on was to provide we want to keep Arsenal down in that pack so that it can be all moved around.
Yeah.
So I really wanted Liverpool to win it because there's
To lose, yeah.
no reason. But
Like you say, though, mate, draws don't win you the league, though, right? And that's 2 points drop. Now, obviously, look, it was always going to be a hard game. Liverpool weren't going to, just sort of let them, win or put out a second best team. So Arsenal needed to turn up, and they didn't. Now, one thing obviously Rice wasn't playing right, and that obviously showed, I think, which was interesting because obviously, as we kept saying, like when Arsenal have been falling off a cliff, he's the only one player, like in the last game, like tracking back 90 yards to make challenges in the box. So I think the first half, they realised that and they realised how much they missed him. Now, he shouldn't be doing every single person's job, but I think I highlighted the point at half time, Mikel Arteta saying, look, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? Just letting them pass around. You're not putting pressure on literally nothing. And it was a whole different team. And fair play to Arsenal coming out with the mentality to kind of just actually change how they were playing and do something about it. Because, this season, as we discussed last week, I mean, yeah, second in the Premier League. Well done if they get it. And, Champions League, all right. But you haven't won anything. You've done nothing, right, ultimately. And it's like we said, the points are not high this year either in terms of what was won like last season when they're like second with over like 9 to whatever. So, it's just a bad season all round. And, fortunately, I think they gave the fans some hope with that second half performance. But at the end of the day, it's not nothing to shout about. You go 2-0 down, well done. They could have won it. There was a few more chances they had, obviously. So they could have won it, I think, in the second half. But, that's Arsenal over, I think. This sums up their season the way they kind of played that match, I think, to kind of, they didn't have the right start. They let Liverpool kind of just do what they wanted to do, and then they had to kind of bring it back the second half. Just give themselves too much to do, right, every time. And it was, they've got to be careful because they only got 1 point out of that. Now, fortunately for them, obviously, like City and obviously Forest dropped points, so they only had draws as well. Only, as we said, Aston Villa won out of that top 6, 7, which obviously fair play to them, obviously. But then, moving on to obviously Forest. I mean, obviously, that's made all the headlines for different reasons.
Let's not go to Forest yet. Don't try and gloss over your scummy fans, right?
All right, okay, go on then. Yeah, go for it, yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't get it. I mean, the players were against. Apparently it was like 70% of the stadium were booing him. And I honestly, and I've heard all these excuses of Carragher saying, we're really passionate, we're the most passionate fans, and it means more to. What are you talking about?
No, I don't think you can excuse it. I think, like I said to you when we spoken about the whole, before we knew he was leaving, right? And I said, look, he wants to go and, prove himself somewhere. Fair play to him. He doesn't have to stay with Liverpool, right? Like, it's not like he's, not done anything for Liverpool. He's won everything. And I just think, I'm not sure, like, kind of what it's driven from. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like kind of something he's done something. Like, it's really strange, like, why there's this perception that he's like a traitor. Like, what, really, like, is traitor? Is it because Real Madrid beat us in the final where Ramos threw Salah to the ground? I don't know. But at the end of the day, we won the Champions League since then, so who cares, right? And it's just kind of move on.
Well, I was thinking about it, and I thought, right, why announce it then? They could have just waited, right?
Yeah.
Just played the rest of the season, and then at the end of the season, no one would have said anything. It'd have been still this rumour mill about this and that, but he'd play the rest of the season, home game, lift the trophy, blah blah blah. I'm going to be going to Real Madrid. Then you wouldn't have had any of this.
Nah.
You'd have won it. Everyone would have been on a high, and it would have been a footnote about Liverpool lifting the trophy. There's this thing about, is he going to go before the World Club Cup and all this sorts of stuff. I think maybe it made it difficult he's made it a bit more difficult for himself announcing it then. People say the excuse about, he didn't go for any money. Well, he's a very, very good player. Why would you sell him? He's given everything. He's won everything. I do understand what some people say about, what it's actually a downward step. Real Madrid this year aren't winning anything. They're not winning the league.
Yeah.
They've lost the cup. They're out of the Champions League. But, in all honesty, Real Madrid are the biggest club in the world. So, and I'm a neutral. It's easy for me to say, you could be passionate, but we were upset, when they didn't renew Frank's contract, and I think he went to New York, didn't he? And then he went and played for Man City. Any of us booing him ever. He scored against us. We were beating City, and he scored against us as a City player. Oh, that was gut wrenching. He didn't celebrate, all that sort of stuff. We would never, in our wildest dreams, boo Frank Lampard or any other. Again with Rafa. He went to Villa. We'd never boo any of them. Czech, we didn't boo, or any of these other players that sort of went and played somewhere else and actually did play 1 or 2 times against us. And I just really don't get it. And he's not even playing he's not gone to Man United or something. You know,
Exactly.
he's
No.
going to Real Madrid. You might play them in the Champions League.
Right.
And I'd possibly understand him being booed if you're playing against him. I can understand that.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
The other players, Szoboszlai was like, just calm it down. And the other players were saying, well, it feels you're booing the whole team. He's like our friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why it does it and has a negative effect on the team. So it's just baffling to me. Absolutely baffling.
It is, yeah. No, I don't get it. And there's no defending it, you know. We need to just like, you know, have some respect, right? And, you know, and then everyone's got free will. It's their choice, right? He's done his contract. He's not tried to, you know, he hasn't like been 2 years into a really good new deal, right? And he's got 2 years left. And basically the club don't want to sell him and he's kicking up a fuss and not playing, right? I'd get it then. I'd get it then if he's like not performing like stuff you on, he's like, I'm going to sit on the bench. You know what I mean? Like, I'd get that for sure. But nothing, you know, he's done nothing like that. You know, and he's done it, you know, well. I think like, the only thing is, should have left at the end of the season, the last match, lift a trophy, and in the interview, announce something in the interview at the end or something like that, right? Then he's not going to have to play again in the crowd, and if people want to boo him, they boo him. But obviously that's all handled by, like, you know, all the agents and stuff isn't telling them when to send stuff out, so it's not really there. It's out of their hands, in all honesty, right? They don't control that kind of stuff. They record it, and then that's kind of handled by the club and whatnot. So, yeah. But no, I agree. I don't know. There's something about, you know, Liverpool. I get what they're saying about the, obviously, you know, they're passionate fans, but there's obviously passion, but then you can drift into a disrespect. I think that's what's happened here. I think it's a little bit disrespectful. It's not passionate. You know, everyone's got their personal viewpoint, as I said before. That's fine. Have your viewpoint, but make your voice known once, then just leave it alone, right? Don't boo a player when we've won the league and we're playing, you know, in a game. Just, you know, just allow that, right? It's just, yeah, unnecessary. So, yeah, which I was trying to gloss over it, but you brought it up, so we have to talk about it. But anyway, but yeah, on to obviously another exciting, crazy game. Obviously, Forest. Obviously, they're kind of obviously Northern Derby for them playing Leicester, right?
Yeah.
And again, what is it with these relegated teams? Do you know what I mean? Like Leicester again. I'm obviously the Derby's not gonna. They don't want to lose. But honestly, like, was it 2-minute goal or something at the start? Wasn't it from Connor Cody? I think.
Yeah, they're very.
Like, literally the first goal, and it was like, oh, here we go. Like, and Forest, unfortunately, have been on a bit of a downward run, haven't they? Like, I think obviously a bit like Chelsea with the striker going out, it kind of changed their game plan. They couldn't really get away around it, to be honest. So that impacted them, but. Obviously, they drew that game, so they dropped points there, and looks like they may miss out on Champions League. I think they might get into Europe potentially.
But yeah, that's guaranteed. So that point guaranteed them Europe. Now,
They are guaranteed Europe. Okay,
now
fine.
what is to be decided, but basically they will definitely have at least
Some Europe, yeah. So at least they got that fair. But I think there's nothing less than they deserve, right, for the season they've had, to be fair. But obviously, 2 points to touch on. First of all, the offside rule, right, with obviously that goal. And again, it's like, this one, as we said about there being daylight, right? When we were talking last week about how the rule should be, when there's okay, that was daylight. Throw your flag up. No, I know they say it's not the rules, right? But because the flag wasn't thrown, they're going to go for the ball, right? In case there's a chance they're going to go.
Absolutely.
And you know that has ended up with him having a serious injury, apparently rupturing his intestine or something.
Yep.
Tyrone has now been put in induced coma to help him recover. I mean. No, we're not blaming the referees. We're not saying that at all. But we're saying that the way they operate this offside rule, they literally just sort it out. Like, honestly, if we go into this season and it hasn't changed, I'll just be like, what's the point even watching this anymore, to be honest? Because it's like, it's going to be the same thing again, right? And that's probably one of the worst injuries I think we've seen since they kind of stopped putting the flag up straight away, right?
Yeah.
And I was just sort of like baffled by it. And I thought, that's just not a good injury to get, right? Now, thankfully, it's the end of the season. But, you know, if that had been midway through, who knows what, you know, ramifications that would have had. So yeah, just again highlighting the offside rule doesn't work.
No, I mean, yeah, the flag needs to go up as soon as it's seen. I know they are to play it through because then it comes to a conclusion, and then you know if they go, all right, offside, stop it. You don't know what happened.
Yeah,
but okay, maybe put something in place for that then.
Yeah.
So put the flag up. If he was onside, have a direct free kick from where he was onside.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in. That then means that the attacking team don't lose the situation that they possibly could have had, and ensures the safety of the player. That's what surely is paramount about all of these things. That's why the referee blows immediately if there's a head injury or something like that, or horrific, you know, bone sticking out or whatever it might be. So put something in place so that if the offside decision is wrong, or, you know, I don't want to go over old ground again, but we talked about this last week, you know, have a challenge situation. Yeah. but just run on what the humans say. If the linesman sticks his flag up, then it's offside. It always used to be that you'd only see it was or wasn't offside on Match of the Day, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You have
that's
to wait
true.
at the end of the season,
Never had
in
anything,
the
yeah.
evening, and go, oh, but it was onside. Well, that's the human part of the game. They don't get it right all the time, which is why VAR was brought in. But they're supposed to have these semi-automated, and that wasn't exactly fine line, was it? He was definitely offside.
Yeah.
What should be buzzing Dirk saying he's offside? So you've got to introduce this technology. It's got to work, but the safety of the players is paramount. All best wishes go out to him and his family. That's just worrying. Being put into a coma, that's the kind of thing that happens with serious brain injuries and stuff.
Right, exactly,
So
yeah.
it's just horrific, and wish him a speedy recovery and everything.
Definitely, yeah.
Obviously the owner,
Yeah.
apparently that was the reason that he went on to the...
The medical staff screwed that massively, haven't they, basically?
So, but is that a thing that you do there? You can chew them out in the dressing room. I mean, no one else is knowing what's going on. They just...
No.
and it's an internal injury. That's the other thing. These are physios, right? They're physios.
Yeah.
They do have a club doctor, but they're physios, so they're generally looking for more muscular, skeletal, those sorts of situations. If you've got a ruptured intestine, it's going to be hard to know. Not going to whip out a X-ray or some sort of, what are they called, MRI machine?
MRI, yeah.
Ref, we're just checking this. You add on an hour of injury time because you're given an MRI on the pitch. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of drama. But it's not even his club anymore because he's given it to a trust, hasn't he? So,
yeah, it's true, yeah. But I think it is just...
I do want to talk to these two guys, these Forest fans. They're just elated they've got Europe. They're just,
sure.
whatever they're in, they're happy.
Yeah.
They're actually, these two guys are season ticket holders and they were away fan members as well. And they actually said Europa League would be absolutely amazing. We'd get to go to all these different places that they'd never been, go on the European tour. They said it'll probably end in a year or two. It'd be nice to go to these different, more exotic clubs. I said, well, I'm not sure about that. I don't think you want to go to the middle of Afghanistan or whatever.
No, exactly. Yeah, Iran, maybe not. Yeah.
I just said, I thought if they got Champions League, they might get some surprise results, but I don't think they'll really be expected to do much.
Too much, no, of course.
But they're just happy they got Europe, and that's a great positive attitude, and that's what they should be like. Everyone thought they were going to be battling relegation, and here they are, definitely in Europe, and it's just which one is it? Is it the top table, middle, or the bottom?
Exactly, 100%, mate. I think this season the old top six has gone, right. It's changed, right? The top six, the classic. It's you've got Man U and obviously Spurs in 16th, so 15th and 16th respectively. Just sort of West Ham.
They just think they're a big club and they're not, so that they shouldn't ever be in the six. Man United historically have been doing well for the last few years, actually. So this is what makes the Premier League great, though, isn't it? You say the top six, but actually it's quite rotational. You can have a really good season. Great example of how strong and competitive this league is. You look at other leagues and they don't have this many teams. I think Italy, actually, that tends to be quite interchangeable, like with Napoli, both the Milans and Juventus and stuff like that. So there's quite a few big clubs. I would say that Spain next after that, and obviously PSG should just win they're saying, Farmers League, blah, blah, blah. And, well, no, Luis Enrique is a Farmers League, right? You won it with like 4 games to go. Your only real challenge comes in Europe, but it is an easy league. It's not like you've won it 8 out of the last 10 or something stupid.
Exactly.
So don't be saying blah, blah, blah. Germany's pretty similar, but they get support from their football association, don't they? Unlike in England. Apart from, I think it's this week, isn't it? I think Tottenham said, can we move the game to Friday because of the final on the next Wednesday? And they actually did comply. And I just think it's something that we should learn from what European clubs do. Is like, if we've got teams in Europe and they're not on the Thursday, then let's try and give them the maximum amount of time between so we can support them in the league.
Definitely, definitely. And whilst on there, then let's move on to Man United, because obviously, all the talk, obviously, the town is Man United. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Why did Amarin accept the job in January and not say, nah, I'm coming in the summer because I've seen what the squad is like and I ain't dealing with that?
I think it's a good question. I almost certainly think that will have come up in the discussion and have gone, okay, I will join you now. Anything that happens that season, you've just got to ignore, basically. My time will start in the summer because a lot of, and I think this is not Amarim will think one of the top in the list, but a lot of
Yeah.
managers have said they don't want to join in January. It's just a poison chalice. It tends to be just negative. They haven't got pre-season. They haven't bought the players that they want. All that sort of stuff. I think he'll have said, look, you could just ignore the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I don't think he thought it would be as bad as it's been. He's even said, this is one of the worst teams to be. I mean, but no one can disagree with him, to be honest.
No, not at all.
So I think that'll be why. I think he'll have had certain reassurances and things like this. People are banging on, it's the worst team, he's got the worst record. Yeah, okay, well, look what he inherited. And he wants to play a certain way. Now, that's going to play out, isn't it, next year? Because he's had a pre-season and have possibly bought some players in that he wants. We'll see about that. And all I can assume is that he's on a stupid amount of money. Enough money, you'd have to be on a stupid amount of money. Enough money that he can pay for all of these members of staff to go to the final. Oh,
mate, honestly.
This is a PR disaster. I can't blame Amarim because he's fairly upfront with it. He's not dodging any bullets. He's admitting the situation.
Yeah.
What is this situation of, cost cutting? How much money is that actually saving for these people that have been battered all season and they finally get to a cup final and you're not even paying for them? It's not even that. It's the tickets to go. No one's saying, you need to pay their hotel and all that sort of stuff. It's just offering them tickets to go. Tottenham are taking all of the staff.
Of course, yeah.
And it's like, it's not like it's a long way away. It's Bilbao. It's like Spain. It's like stick them on an EasyJet. Beggars believe. I can't believe they're in that much financial difficulty. And it's just another headline that detracts from, maybe it's trying to detract from the football because nobody's interested in that. But it reminds me of our Patriots kind of thing, but not that tight bit. But obviously we're flying high and then we just massively crashed down literally to the bottom of our league. Now, we've had a really good draft, and I think we're going to be on the up now. We've got a good coaching and stuff, but United fans are so used to being so successful over so long a time, and to a certain extent, Chelsea. We've been used to changing managers, winning cups, changing managers, winning cups. It's just how we've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a complete and utter mess, isn't it?
It is a mess. And then, and I think this is where the soul and the culture of the club is left, right? They're doing these stupid cuts, right? And then they announce they're going to build a £2 billion stadium, right? So hang on a minute. You can't afford to give people, canteen lunches, but somehow because you're going to, put it over 10 years and depreciate certain things, you're going to make this work $2 billion. And that's the thing, like you say, what really is the financial impact of the cost they're doing? When you look at the grand scheme of the club, minimal, right? I was looking at their financial results earlier, and obviously got a lot of debt, but they had for the 2024 season, they run it from like May to June. That's their financial year they do. So they had revenue of 631 million coming in. Now, obviously, the finances of the club are very, crazy. They obviously could borrow money. There's different stuff, but Man, you have so much stuff. They've got transfer debt as well, which is crazy. So it's just sort of like the club has just been not run into the ground, but you hear about from the players like Ronaldo is one of his gripes was the training facilities weren't up to scratch, right, and that kind of stuff. And you just think, well, what has happened to it? And that's people obviously blaming the Glazers around, not putting money, but they have put money in. But
they take it all out again. So that's the thing. They take all these loans. They take their from their shares, they take their sort of dividends. They don't leave them there to be reinvested into the club. They just they bought the club, loaded it with debt, and then they just take their dividends. So it's just a cash cow for them. It's talking about this final. I don't think it's a rumor because I've heard it from loads of different places. If United win this final, okay, next year, because Casemiro's I think he's still got 2 years on it or something.
No.
If they get qualification for the Champions League, this was in his contract. If they get it goes up. His bake goes up 150 grand a week. So if Man United win this league, this cup, okay, just wages, because he's one of the ones they want to get rid of. I don't know why he'd want to go anywhere else. He just needs it.
It's just easy, yeah, exactly.
That's 600,000 a month, okay,
additional.
Yeah, so that's £7.2 million a year more to Casemiro if they win this cup. Okay, so they say you get about 100 million wherever you come in the Champions League, right? You get about 100 million, okay, on average with the TV and the rewards. So near enough, 10% of that's going to Casemiro. Casemiro,
low legs.
all the way to
Oh
the
my
bank.
days! I mean, he's laughing the way to the bank, isn't he? Like honestly, like if I was him, I'd just be like, oh, I'm injured for the next 2 years. Just take the money and like that's it.
Well,
Isn't it?
no, he's obviously he's going to have he's got you put these incentives in right to
Yeah,
incentivize the players, right? He wants to win.
yeah,
He's going to be picked. He's going to
Yeah.
play in the final. He's really going to want Man United to win that, and he's going to give it. You know, you hope that all the players are going to do that.
Yeah,
But
of course.
just an extra on top of what he's already earning.
Yeah.
He'll be on £500,000 a week, and they're worried about cutting lunches.
That's what I mean. It's embarrassing. Like that 150k probably would pay for 2 years worth of lunches for all the staff, right? That's the sick thing, isn't it? And this is where I think at some point we'll do a bit of a talk about money in football, right? Because I think it's silly. You know, we have all this financial fair play stuff, and yeah, there's been certain instances like obviously Chelsea was stopped from making transfers, right, or whatever it was because they breached the rules or whatever. But
yeah, that was to do with kids. That was
yeah.
Those sorts of stuff. It wasn't really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think it's just like no one ever really seems to get penalised for anything, right? And sometimes you look at clubs and you think, like you say, obviously they're just like it's a cash cow for obviously the owners, right? And they hide certain things. Like Man City, a prime example of that, right?
Well, when's that going to happen?
Oh, it's like 115 charges, but it's all quiet. No one knows anything because it's all behind closed doors. Like honestly, it's like if anyone reveals it, they'd be shot or something. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like. Yeah,
well,
that's the thing, isn't it?
Out this summer, and I hope that that's implemented.
Yeah,
but I think you're right. You know, money does do all these things, but you know what? It is where it is. It's not really going to change. It's always been a money game, and it's just got more and more. So, I don't know. Does Ineos want Man United to lose this so then Casemiro doesn't get paid like another 7 million?
Yeah, it'd be like there'll be some fixing scandal after this, right? About someone kneecapped Casemiro before the game.
The thing is, but no, that's if Manchester United qualify for the Champions League. So even if he doesn't play or anything, he's still going to get it. Right?
He's going to get it right. Okay.
Crazy. But you just think like, why would he want to leave? He's probably going to. No, well, I don't think they're going to win. I think Tottenham are going to win. But why is he going to leave? He's only going to leave, and he's going to say? If they do want him to leave, he's going to say, "Well, I'll pay my contract off then. Pay my contract off, so Man United aren't any better off, and I'll go to Dubai or wherever and walk around and earn £1.2 million a second." Utter madness there. I don't like Man United. That's probably because I grew up when they were so successful, and you just don't like the most successful club. But I'm actually getting to the stage where I don't feel sorry for the club or the people taking over the club, but I actually do feel quite sorry for the fans. Because they go and they're being shuffled around away so they can have more hospitality and all this sort of stuff. And this is with the problem. You're talking about money. This is the problem with the money is when it starts to get in the way of those people that have been going for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
That's the thing, isn't it?
And what is a football club? It is made of the fans that follow, the hardcore fans that follow and go week in, week out, away matches, all this sorts of stuff. It's not for the overnight fans. They want to come in and join in and pay, an exorbitant amount of money. Great, fantastic. That'll only aid the club, but it's actually about those thousands of fans that go every week. To see that being diluted and made less and less important, it's not nice to see. Feel sorry for the fans. The demise of Man United is going to be one of the topics of the season, isn't it?
It is, 100%. And interesting, isn't it? Amarin, I think in one of his press conferences said perhaps, him and his staff are not the right people for this club, right?
You are then.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, there's no one else, is there? Like, if he leaves, they're gonna, they end up like asking Gary Neville to coach them or something. Who we all know he had a failed managerial career and went into punditry because that failed fabulously. I mean, it's just like, and I think this is the thing, right? I think while we've been talking about Arsenal being deluded, like they have a right to win, which no one does, right? I think because of Man U's successful years under Alex Ferguson, right? I think they have got that little bit of delusion as well, right? They think that we should just continue the same thing, even though you look at this team and you're like, apart from Bruno Fernandes, who is a little bit of a man-child sometimes, where is the real quality in that? So you look at the positions, it's average at best. There's no world-class players. If you did, as we were joking about the other week, all-star football game, right? No one would pick from Man United right now. Literally no one. There is no one that would make an all-star 11 of the Premier League, right?
No, I think the flash earlier in the season was Diallo.
Yes, he's injured,
I still think, that kid's decent.
He's got something, for sure.
But there's talk about, Arsenal were interested. I mean, I'd be interested in Diallo. I mean, a guy that goes, again, spoiled brat, in my view, Sometimes
Yeah,
he
yeah,
picks up, sometimes he doesn't.
yeah.
I don't want, there were rumours about Chelsea wanting him. I don't want him.
Don't, mate. Yeah, you don't
I
want to
also
get
want
that.
to pay Man United the $5 million. They can take Sancho back.
Yes.
I don't want anything involved with that. He's just not done enough. He's had sparks again. I just think go to Germany permanently. That's
Stay where
your
you did
best
well.
football. You're away from whatever bad influences are affecting you in this country, because clearly it's something in this country or people in this country.
Yeah.
Go to Germany, play football there. He will be a world beater. He can play for England then because he'll be on top form. I'd go, Dortmund, please take me. I'll take a pay cut.
Yeah.
And then give me bonuses on performances and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Get to Germany, stop listening to people around you, and become the player that you can still be, because he's only like 25.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go where you're your best and play your best football. That's a good environment for you. Highly professional. Just do it, Jaden. Just bite the bullet.
So you got to make the right choice what's right for you at the end of the day, right? Like you say, whatever the reason is, he can't hit form in the UK. So what? Just go play somewhere else, mate. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I with Bellingham, right? Do you know what I mean? He wasn't in the Premier League. Who cares? We went to Real Madrid afterwards, right? So don't restrict yourself there. Yes, we all know the Premier League is one of the best leagues. We know that, right? But if for whatever reason it just doesn't work for you, don't keep trying to flog a dead horse, right? Like you say, go where you're successful. The German league's still good, right?
Absolutely.
Top quality league.
Can go there.
Exactly right. Germany always in World Cup competitions always come with the goods, don't they? So there's nothing bad about the league. You want to rather go to the German league than obviously League One or whatever. In France, right? So
just look at the English players that have gone abroad and are performing better than they were.
Yeah.
The Premier League's not right for them. You look at what Jamie Gittins has gone to Dortmund. You look at Maury's gone to Milan. Loftus Cheek, Tammy Abraham. He's playing.
Yeah.
They are performing. Lukaku. He that is a league for him. Okay.
Yeah.
These leagues are suiting people. Germany is a really good place. You can focus on your football. They're very professional.
Yeah.
Italy's the same. It's a slightly slower place to play, but it's very much more tactical. You become a different type of player. McTominay goes over, and it absolutely.
Yeah.
What Man United fans have given McTominay, right? Still beat United, but they had to sell him to balance their messed up books. So I think it used to be a time where English players weren't wanted, across Europe. They were not signed. I think it was like Beckham was like one of the very few that went, and Lineker went to Barcelona, I think. But there weren't a lot of players that went abroad, right? English players. But now you just look at the players that Chelsea's gone through their youth academy and thrown away, including Declan Rice. But they're all throughout these major leagues. Maitland-Niles, he's in France. He's playing incredibly well for Lyon. So this opportunity is wide open. You don't have to stay here. As you said, went from Birmingham City, didn't go to Premier League, went to Dortmund, killed it, and then Real Madrid paid whatever 100 million or whatever they paid for him, and then he's performing there. Like, these players, it's a different view. Like, we think the league is the best. It is the best. Fastest. Obviously, we've been knocked out, but got all these opportunities. Just take advantage of them. It's a global game.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Yeah, don't restrict yourself. And it's a shame, and I kind of think sometimes, who is it in these players' ears who's giving the wrong advice, right? And that's another conversation for another day, right? The kind of whole, who's in his agents and whoever. I don't think it's family necessarily, because they want the best.
A lot of things you hear, like, what's his name? Oh, he played really well for West Ham. He was at Man United. He played really well for West Ham, and then he's sort of like...
Oh, Wan-Bissaka?
No, not Wan-Bissaka.
No.
Oh, what's his name? It's so annoying. They were touting him, he should play for England and everything like this. But he basically would just... Rafael Morris... Something.
Oh, Mike, you're going way back. Yes. Right?
Yes. Ferguson was like one of the best. People who trained with him said it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Going back to Manchester, and it's people that he grew up with. There's a famous quote, actually. He's not a footballer, but Chris Tucker, the movie star, said when his family heard that he was on like $20 million a year, they all quit their jobs. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, we're not rich. I'm rich, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of these things is like people that they grew up. Now, I don't know these are rumours, and it's not me saying that this is the reason or anything like that. Don't want a load of people coming after me or anything, but people in their ears, not necessarily their agents and stuff. It can be, but people they grew up with, and then they sort of on. They've got the people that hang around with them and stuff, and they said, when they go to a different country, they're completely cut out from that. And if you can handle that in that other country and just be focused on your football, because how long is your career? Focus on your football, do well, and then it just become more resilient. Then if you're resilient enough, you can do that, and that's what a lot of guys have done. They've gone abroad.
Yeah.
And they've been taken away from perhaps these influencers that saying, "Oh, you're better than this. You know, oh, you're so good," and like, you know, talking rather than being like honest with them. So, but that's the thing. Like, I think what was it? He was at Portsmouth or West Ham, and Harry Redknapp said, well, Sam Allardyce saying he kept going back up to Manchester, where there was a lot of bad influences on him. It could have been one of the best talents in the world ever, and just look at Jesse Lingard, like playing in Korea, loving it.
Thank you. Yeah,
lots of options.
Indeed, mate. It's yeah. I think at some point, sort of, people need to take their own destiny into their own hands, really, as well, right? And I think that's kind of perhaps doesn't always happen. They rely too much on kind of external kind of views and influences. But yeah, like you say, for their own sake and for their football careers, I hope they make the right decisions, right? Obviously going forward. And like we said, it's going to be a busy transfer window. I think there's always been quite a bit of movement already, and we'll talk about that, I think, in another episode around what's going on. But thankfully, just one point, it seems like Arsenal are already in for a striker. So obviously you don't want to hear that, Wes, but at least, apparently, they're in for Bjorkes, who's at Lisbon, which is quite funny because I'm sure Amarin probably would have wanted to get him, obviously, from Lisbon. But yes, that's all the talks. I think they've kind of agreed a deal in principle almost. So
you can have a failed Championship striker. That is probably the worst.
Well, this is the thing.
That is probably the worst striker they could sign. Like I don't know. We need to send this to our well, maybe not, because he'll get some ideas that he didn't have before. But why he's a failed Championship striker? I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's clearly not, because he's been in Portugal and scored a load. And if Amarin wants him, he clearly fits in.
Good.
Yeah, if they want to, he's not a bad striker. He's clearly scored in Portugal, but I just think that's an easy route out. He's probably the cheapest option. Have they really researched it? It's
Arsenal, isn't it?
I think what they want to do is they want to get someone in early, quick. So look, we signed a striker. He's a rubbish striker. He's not the right striker. You could sign anyone and go, oh, we signed a striker. Yeah, but he's not gonna. Should probably come back to bite me, and he'll probably smash in 25 next year. But,
you watch it.
Like looking at, I'd like to think I have a fairly decent knowledge of football. Portugal, can you name me a striker from Portugal that's come and scored loads in the Premier League? No. Cristiano Ronaldo. So Portugal's, always the last striker that came from Portugal, scored 25, 30 goals. Ronaldo's one of the obviously ones you're going to point to, but, it's not a very, very difficult league. They say it's similar like in physicality, but, again, if they've gone Gyökeres, I think they've messed up again, but we'll see, won't we?
We'll see. We'll have a discussion on the whole transfer market anyway. We'll see how things progress a little bit. Obviously, it hasn't even ended the season yet, so let's see what happens. But it'll be exciting nonetheless. Busy seasons for everyone. Just to see who goes, who stays, and then we can make our predictions for the season ahead. So, well, there we go. Thank you very much, Ray. It's been a blast, as always. Look forward to the FA Cup, obviously, and we'll review that one afterwards. Quickly, so what's your prediction for the FA Cup then?
I think Palace will win.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say 2-1 to Palace, yeah. I can't think it might go to extra time, but I hope it's done in 90 minutes. We don't have to sit there for another 30 minutes and watch them just like running around, just like really slowly. Like, come on, guys, just finish it off.
Absolutely. And then Chelsea to beat Man United in the Women's FA Cup the next day.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. So that's your scenario. Okay, fair enough. So, indeed.
Oh, yeah, and Arsenal can no longer say that they're the only club that was invincible. Literally, our
WSL, mate.
Our women's team can do it, so it's not that great.
They did do it, yeah. WSL, but yeah, fair play. It's still a league, so it has been done now.
And we drew far less than they did. We only drew 3.
Indeed, yeah. Draws kill your league chances, that's for sure, right?
That's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ray. It's been a blast. Yeah. I'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
Peace out, man.
Bye.